Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. Welcome back to financial freedom for the lazy person. I guess the question is, are you lazy enough to want to make work optional? In this video, I'm going to cover something that BiggerPockets Money just did. BiggerPockets Money just did a really good episode on the drawdown methods for stocks. And I'm actually here in Las Vegas where we just had BPCon 2025, and I got to hang out with Scott and Minnie, who were the hosts of that episode. And it's a brilliant episode. So if you invest in stocks and you want to hear things like, taxable accounts, traditional retirement accounts, delaying Social Security, the Roth, HSA, all of the methods that you associate with stocks and retirement or early retirement, I suggest you check it out. I will pin a link to that video in the comments below. I watch it and I don't even invest in stocks. So the purpose of this video is with rentals, the strategy is different because taxes are almost irrelevant. They're the motivating factor to invest in real estate, not the timeline dictator. So let me go over a couple of concepts. I know a lot of people invest in rentals, and I hear it often in most of the chat rooms. Don't touch your rental income until you retire or until XYZ. And I have a very specific method that worked for me going from very broke to financially free and retiring about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago now. I mean, quick timeline recap. I was 40, single parent, three kids, found out about a bunch of bad debt in my name I didn't know existed till the divorce, got laid off from law enforcement, and at 40 started saving to invest. And at 52, I retired and plan on never working again because I'm super lazy. Now I'm just sharing with you how I got here. There's a ton of videos on how I did that, including the binder strategy where I get my tenants to ask me to raise the rent, which helps finding cash flow deals because all my deals are from the MLS, conventional loans, nothing fancy. Didn't do any burrs, rehabs, flips, wholesales, anything like that until after I retired. I did my first and last burr. So I'm the super boring, lazy guy that bought from the MLS with conventional loans. But how did I pay myself with rentals? How did I draw down the money into retirement? Because it wasn't just flipping a switch. I wanted to have a litmus test. And I've heard a lot of people say, don't touch your rental income. And in the beginning, I agree. 100% of the rental income or the money saved from house hacking, which is where you reduce or eliminate your housing expense by buying a small multifamily house, duplex, triplex, or fourplex, living in one unit, renting out the others, or having roommates, or all of these creative ways, a house with an ADU, so you don't even realize you have tenants that are neighbors. But taking 100% of that money, I didn't touch anything, probably in the first 4 or 5 years. So I'm on the train, the same path as the people who said, don't touch your rental income. So I didn't. For those 4 to 5 years, it was 100% reinvested. A lot of people do what's recycle, they call it recycle capital. They'll take out a home equity line of credit, they'll take out a cash out refinance, they'll sell and do something like a 1031 exchange. Well, I've not done any of those. I recycled cash flow. So every penny that came in went back into not just saving for the next investment, but those repairs, the vacancy, the turnover, the maintenance, all of that, that in the first few years feels like it's coming from our pocket until we build the reserves and we have the discipline to continue to set aside money from gross rents for future expenses. Eventually, we start looking forward to expenses like putting a water heater in because a bad landlord thinks that's coming out of their pocket. For me, that's the tenant's money that I've been setting aside for those repairs and maintenance items so that when I put in a new water heater, the tenant's paid for it. I look forward to those expenses. So I don't dread expenses like a lot of landlords that I know. So the goal is you want your cash flow from your rentals to work harder than you do. I was still continuing to grow my active income over time, side hustle. I was playing World of Warcraft and selling things online to try to generate more income for the next investment. So in that beginning, I was living off of my W-2 income. And I had a really like a strong goal to say, I don't want to touch rental income until there's a gap between my rental income and my expenses. So one of the first numbers I want you to learn is how much do you spend? I want you to control life creep and really avoid finding those times where people say, well, I've worked really hard. I've earned it. I worked so much overtime this year. I need to take a vacation. That makes the overtime pointless. The overtime was to invest, to put money to work so that you don't have to. I did go several years without a vacation. I drove very old vehicles. I had a 19 and a 17-year-old Jeep. Each one had to be there so that one was running well enough to get me to work. So avoid life creep. Don't let your expenses increase because you've earned it. That's the trap people fall into. What I did is I lived off my W-2 income for those first 5 or 6 years. And around the 7 year mark, my cash flow passed my first metric. The first metric we're looking for is what are your expenses? When my cash flow was higher than that, I didn't just switch over and start spending rental income, but when there was about a 20% buffer, and I'll just use a round number. So if my monthly expenses were 1,000, you can use 10,000 or 100,000, whatever bougie life you want. Mine's about four. So when cash flow passed 20% higher than that. So if you need $1,000 a month, as soon as your cash flow is 1,200, since I needed four when my cash flow was above 4,800, if you need 10,000, you're going to need 20% more than that. So $12,000 in cash flow. Once I was 20% above my financial independence number, so I couldn't retire. This is not financial freedom. This is financial independence. I could maybe cut back on the overtime. I could switch jobs. I could maybe take a job where I'm not worried about what I'm making. But financial independence is not when you retire. Once I had that 20% buffer, I switched from living on W-2 and saving my uh, rental income to invest. I pulled the lever and I moved all of my expenses to living off of rental income. This way, when I flipped the switch, 100% of money from my side hustle and 100% of money from my W-2 was saved for the next investment, for the next property, for the next value add expense. All of those things that go into growing the portfolio because I wanted my money to work harder than me. This is counterintuitive to what a lot of people think. With stocks, you're worried about when can you get into your retirement accounts without having a penalty, or when do you get so security, or when does Medicaid kick in, or when does the 4% rule come in? So for me, it wasn't a metric of age or taxes. I haven't even considered taxes because I have never paid a penny in rental income tax yet. I've got several videos on how that's legal to do. For me, it was a matter of cash flow. And what this did was from when I started living on rental income, when that 20% was there, you move from uh, growth phase to accelerated growth phase. You will not believe how life changes when the income snowball starts to kick in. And I was living on rental income. There was a buffer of 20%. 100% of W-2 income was saved. And in the next couple of years, that 20% from rental income became 40, 60, 100% more than what I was living on. So for those years, so this was about a 4 year period for me before I ended up hitting my second metric. The first metric was financial independence. I did hit that. I believe I was muted for that. We'll see. So as I hit financial independence and started living off my rental income, I had a 4 year litmus test from 2018 to 2022. I had 4 years where I didn't touch one penny from my W-2 or one penny from my side hustle. It was actually a period of time where I stopped the side hustle because the time spent finding, screening, improving my rentals was more important than playing World of Warcraft as a side hustle. But that rental income continued to grow and I kept the discipline, kept the old cars, kept the no vacations. I think somewhere in there I started doing the vacations and started getting cars, but it wasn't in the beginning. But I had 4 years where I knew 100% with guarantee I didn't need my job because I hadn't touched the cash flow from it. I hadn't touched the income from my job for those 4 years. Then I hit my second metric when it comes to rental income drawdown. I didn't get to my financial independence number and just quit my job. What if there is a recession, a stock market crash, a pandemic, rents go down in my local market, something I have a health concern, right? I didn't want to have just enough. I wanted a multiplier. And I go off of this sliding scale. The less you need, the bigger the multiplier you should have. If you only need $1,000 a month to survive, I wouldn't want you to retire until you had 5 or 6 times that. If you need $20,000 a month to survive, I wouldn't want you to go to keep working until you had 5 or 6 times that. I needed about four because I still house hack. I drive paid off vehicles. When I travel, it's not too expensive places. It's to Portugal, Thailand, Colombia, where the scuba is amazing and the dollar is strong. So when I was using a multiplier of four, when my cash flow passed $16,000 a month, I felt silly going to work. So in 2022, I retired because I had hit all three metrics. The first one is financial independence. My expenses are covered. Then I hit financial freedom. My expenses and black swan events are covered. So if there is that pandemic again, that probably will never happen in our life, but if we have a rent freeze or rent control goes in my state, which is actually making me a lot more money, those things can happen, and I feel comfortable and confident in my ability to continue to not have to go back to work. And the third metric that not too many people talk about is I have enough money coming in so that I am continuing to invest. It wasn't just get to a certain number. And yes, real estate is a hedge against inflation. Inflation makes you richer when you own levered real estate, possibly even not levered real estate. But inflation creates inflation-based debt destruction, making my debt easier to pay off. Inflation makes rents go up. Inflation makes the margin between rents and expenses goes up. It grows with inflation. So I look forward to inflation, but I also have more money coming in than I need so that I have more money to invest. I'm not actively growing my portfolio. I'm not spending all of the time I did in growth mode or in what do you call it? Accelerated growth mode when I started taking rental income and W-2 income, putting them together to buy the next asset. In retirement, I will probably every other year pick up another rental. Yes, my kids will inherit millions. Instead of inheriting me when I'm too old to work and they would have to take care of me, now I have enough money to hire paid professionals to take care of me. So look at your portfolio and figure out, do you have a lever, a point in time where the cash flow from your rentals is at least 20% more than what you spend, so that you might be able to switch over to living on rental income, so that you can have a several year litmus test of your portfolio before you do anything silly like walking away from a job that you love that had $2 million in golden handcuffs when I left, and not look back with any regret because I had a 4 year period where I knew I didn't need the money. Yes, it was nice to have the money to continue to invest. And yes, my kids will inherit more because of it. And yeah, I'm more prepared for something like a pandemic, a health concern, getting older. But I also have the time freedom that comes from not being in growth mode or even accelerated growth mode anymore. I just put the money to work when it piles up. So those are the three metrics I wanted to hit. I don't care about taxes. I kind of look forward to the day that I actually pay some taxes because that means, and I'm going to use a professional term here, I made a metric F ton of money and the government got some finally. I hope you have a day full of amazing. I do a live stream every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific when I'm not traveling or on stage at BPCon as their keynote speaker for the wrap up, which was an amazing experience. And I was super honored to be there. I look forward to next year, which is going to be in Orlando. Hope to see you there. Before then, I hope to see you at the One Rental at a Time event in February. Have a weekend, if that's what's coming up for you, full of amazing. And remember, you will be alive in 10 years. Start investing like it.